Welcome to the future.
Welcome to 1337, the future of podcast of longevity. I'm Max, your host, exploring the science of living longer.
And I'm Sophia, diving into health hacks and ageless living tips. We're here to uncover the secrets to a vibrant, extended life.
Today we're taking a deep dive into a fascinating theory about why we age. You've probably heard about those hallmarks of aging, like telomere shortening and mitochondrial dysfunction.
Right. Those are the things we often see happening as we get older, but have you ever wondered what's causing them in the first place? What's driving those changes at the cellular level?
That's what we're going to explore today. We'll be unpacking the information theory of aging, as described by Harvard professor Dr. David Sinclair.
Now, before we jump into the theory itself, it's important to understand the difference between genetics and epigenetics. You can think of your DNA as the hardware, the raw code of life. But the epigenome is the software it controls how that code is read and executed.
So it's like our DNA provides the blueprint, and the epigenome decides which parts of the blueprint are used and how they're assembled.
Exactly. And just like software can get corrupted, our epigenome can become disorganized over time.
Okay, so how does this software corruption lead to aging?
Dr. Sinclair's theory suggests that aging is fundamentally about a loss of information, specifically epigenetic information. As our cells divide and replicate, damage to our DNA accumulates, kind of like scratches on a DVD. These scratches disrupt the smooth functioning of the epigenome, leading to errors in how genes are turned on and off.
So it's not just about the damage itself. It's about how that damage messes up the instructions that tell our cells what to do.
That's it. And over time, these little errors add up. Cells start losing their specific identity and function, forgetting what they're supposed to be doing. This eventually leads to the visible signs of aging, like wrinkles, weakened immune systems, and even age-related diseases.
So if we could protect our DNA and prevent this information loss, could we theoretically slow down the aging process?
That's exactly what Dr. Sinclair and other researchers are exploring. And while there's still a lot we don't know, the good news is that there are things we can do to influence this process.
This is where things get really interesting. Dr. Sinclair's research suggests that certain lifestyle choices and even emerging therapies might help to slow down or maybe even reverse this epigenetic decline.
So what are some of these interventions that could help us maintain the integrity of our epigenetic information?
Well, one of the key things Dr. Sinclair emphasizes is the role of cellular stress. Now, before you get stressed out about stress, let's be clear. We're not talking about chronic, overwhelming stress here. We're talking about short bursts of what Dr. Sinclair calls perceived adversity.
Perceived adversity. What does that mean?
Think of it like this. Our bodies are still programmed for a time when we had to deal with physical challenges to survive, like running from predators or enduring extreme temperatures. These challenges, while stressful in the moment, actually triggered beneficial adaptations that helped our ancestors thrive.
So are you saying that putting our bodies through a bit of a challenge can actually be good for us?
That's the idea. It seems that certain types of stress can actually activate longevity pathways, signaling our cells to repair and fortify themselves.
Okay, that's pretty counterintuitive. Give me some examples of this perceived adversity that we can incorporate into our lives.
Well, one of the most well-studied examples is exercise. Getting out of breath a few times a week, really pushing yourself physically, signals to your body that it needs to adapt to physical threats. It's like telling your cells, hey, we need to be ready for action.
So it's like tricking our bodies into thinking we're still living in the wild and need to be prepared to outrun a saber-toothed tiger.
Exactly. And this threat triggers a cascade of beneficial responses, including the activation of these protective enzymes called sirtuins.
Wait, sirtuins, you mentioned those earlier. Remind me what they do again.
Think of sirtuins as the guardians of our genome. They help to keep our DNA neatly packaged and functioning properly. They're like little repair crews, constantly working to fix damage and maintain the integrity of our genetic information.
Interesting. So exercise is one way to activate these sirtuin repair crews. What else can we do?
Another powerful intervention is intermittent fasting, or caloric restriction. This doesn't mean starving yourself. It just means incorporating periods of fasting into your routine, like skipping breakfast or having an early dinner.
Hold on. Are you saying that being hungry is good for us?
Well, Not exactly enjoying feeling hungry, but the act of strategically depriving our bodies of food for a period of time seems to activate those same survival and repair mechanisms that exercise does. It triggers a response that tells our cells, hey, resources are scarce, we need to be efficient, and make sure everything is running smoothly.
This is fascinating. Are there other examples of this perceived adversity that can be beneficial?
Absolutely. Think about exposure to temperature extremes, hot and cold.
Like taking a cold shower.
That's one way to do it. But you can also incorporate things like saunas, hot tubs, and cold plunges. These sudden changes in temperature can stimulate beneficial adaptations, kind of like giving your body a jolt of energy and telling it to step up its game.
So our ancestors who didn't have climate-controlled homes and cars were actually getting a longevity boost from dealing with the elements.
Quite possibly. And there's another interesting twist when it comes to cold exposure. It can actually stimulate the development of brown fat in our bodies.
Brown fat. Isn't all fat bad?
Not necessarily. Brown fat is actually quite different from the white fat we usually think of. It's packed with mitochondria, the energy powerhouses of the cell, and it's thought to play a role in regulating body temperature and even burning calories.
So it's like a good kind of fat that actually helps us stay lean and healthy.
That's the idea. And cold exposure seems to be one way to increase its presence in our bodies.
Okay, so we've got exercise, intermittent fasting, and temperature extremes, all things that create a bit of a challenge for our bodies and in turn seem to activate these longevity pathways.
Right. These interventions seem to trick our bodies into thinking they need to be prepared for challenges, which then triggers those beneficial adaptations that promote longevity.
This is all starting to make sense, but it also sounds like a lot of work. Are there any easier ways to tap into these longevity pathways?
Well, there are some specific molecules that have shown promise in activating these pathways. One that's getting a lot of attention in the longevity world is metformin. It's a drug that's been used safely for decades to treat type 2 diabetes, but it also seems to mimic some of the beneficial effects of fasting.
So it tricks our bodies into thinking we're fasting even if we're not.
Exactly. Metformin activates this important cellular energy sensor called AMPK, which triggers a cascade of responses that enhance cellular repair and maintenance, improve insulin sensitivity, and boost mitochondrial function, all things that are associated with healthy aging.
And this is considered safe for people who don't have diabetes?
Metformin has a long track record of safety and has been used by millions of people for decades. Of course, it's important to talk to your doctor before starting any new medication or supplement, but it's definitely an area of active research in the longevity field.
That's pretty amazing. It sounds like metformin is almost like a shortcut to some of the benefits of fasting.
In a way, yes. And it's another example of that concept of hormesis we discussed earlier. The idea that a little bit of stress can be good for you.
Interesting. So metformin is one molecule that's getting a lot of buzz. Are there others?
Definitely. There's a lot of excitement around NAD boosters.
NAD. Remind me what that is again.
NAD stands for nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, and it's like the fuel that powers those sirtuin enzymes we've been talking about.
Right, the repair crews that keep our DNA organized.
Exactly. As we age, our NAD levels naturally decline, which is thought to contribute to the aging process. But the exciting news is that there are ways to boost NAD levels.
Okay, now we're talking. How do we do that?
Well, there are a couple of molecules that have been shown to raise NAD levels in humans, NMN and NR. They're precursors to NAD, meaning they get converted into NAD in the body.
NMN and NNR, those sound familiar.
They've been gaining a lot of attention in the longevity world because research suggests they might have some pretty remarkable effects on aging. Studies have shown that NMN can improve muscle function, boost metabolism, and even protect against age-related cognitive decline in animals. NR has also shown promising results, improving insulin sensitivity, boosting mitochondrial function, and even promoting healthy aging in various animal models.
This is all so groundbreaking. But before we get carried away with all these exciting interventions, is there any way to measure if they're actually working? I mean, how do we know if we're actually slowing down aging?
That's a great question. And thankfully, there are some tools emerging that can help us measure our biological age and track our progress. One of the most exciting developments is the concept of the DNA clock, sometimes called the methylation clock.
A DNA clock. That sounds pretty sci-fi. What is that exactly?
It's a way of measuring biological age by looking at patterns of methylation on our DNA. Imagine these methyl groups as tiny flags that attach to our DNA. As we age, these flags change in predictable patterns, and by analyzing these patterns, scientists can get a remarkably accurate estimate of our biological age.
So, You could have two people who are the same chronological age, but their DNA clocks could tell a very different story about how well they're aging.
Precisely. And that's what makes this tool so powerful. It allows us to look beyond our chronological age, the number of years we've been alive, and get a more accurate reading of our biological age, which is a much better indicator of our overall health and longevity.
Wow, that's incredible. It sounds like we're getting closer to understanding aging not just as a passive process, but as something we can actually measure and potentially influence.
Exactly. And while there's still a lot we're learning, this is an incredibly exciting time to be alive, especially if you're interested in longevity. There's so much research happening, and new discoveries are being made all the time.
This has been an incredible deep dive so far. It's amazing to think about the potential for not just living longer, but also living healthier and more vibrantly.
It is. And we're just getting started. So we've been talking about all these amazing scientific breakthroughs and the potential for extending lifespan, but it can all feel a bit overwhelming.
You're right. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement and think that we need to do everything perfectly to live longer.
Exactly. But I think it's important to remember that aging is a natural part of life, and there's no one-size-fits-all approach to longevity.
Absolutely. We need to find what works for us as individuals within our own unique circumstances and preferences. And most importantly, we need to enjoy the journey. So true. Because ultimately, it's not just about adding years to our lives, it's about adding life to our years. And that's something we can all start doing today, regardless of our age or genetic predispositions.
I love that. It's about finding ways to live more fully, more vibrantly, and more authentically in each moment.
Speaking of living vibrantly, I'm curious to hear more about Dr. Sinclair's personal longevity routine. He's not just talking the talk, he's walking the walk, putting these principles into practice in his own life, right? He is. He's very open about his routine, and it's actually pretty inspiring. He doesn't claim to have all the answers, but he's certainly committed to experimenting and seeing what works for him.
So what does he actually do every day to stay healthy and young?
Well, he's big on intermittent fasting, for example. He usually skips breakfast, having his first meal around lunchtime. And he doesn't just snack throughout the day. He believes in giving his body a break from constantly digesting food, which aligns with that concept of hormesis we discussed, creating those little bursts of stress that activate longevity pathways.
So it's not just about what he eats, but also when he eats. What about exercise?
He's a big believer in regular physical activity, too. He tries to get in at least an hour of exercise most days, a mix of cardio and strength training. And he's mentioned that he enjoys working out with his son, which is a great way to make it a social activity and stay motivated.
That's awesome. I love that he emphasizes the social and enjoyment aspects of exercise, too.
Right.
It's not just about punishing yourself at the gym. It's about finding activities you genuinely enjoy and making them part of your life.
Exactly. And he doesn't stop there. Remember those sauna, hot tub, and cold plunge sessions we talked about?
Yeah, the ones that sound both terrifying and exhilarating.
Does he actually do those regularly?
He does. He spends about an hour every week going through cycles of hot and cold exposure, which he says not only makes him feel great, but also believes is beneficial for his health.
I have to admit, I'm a little bit intimidated by the thought of a cold plunge. But I'm also intrigued by the idea of pushing myself outside my comfort zone and potentially reaping those longevity benefits. What else is part of his regimen? Well, of course, he takes those molecules we discussed, metformin, resveratrol, NMN. But he also emphasizes the importance of regular blood testing and monitoring his health metrics to see what's working for him. He's a big believer in personalized medicine and the idea that we all respond differently to different interventions.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about blindly following someone else's routine, but about finding what works best for you. And it sounds like Dr. Sinclair is really walking the walk when it comes to tracking his progress and making adjustments along the way.
He certainly is, and that's something we can all learn from. We can't just assume that something is working. We need to pay attention to our bodies, track our progress, and be willing to experiment and adjust our approach as needed.
This is great information for our listeners to keep in mind as they explore their own longevity journeys.
It is. We've been focusing a lot on individual interventions and personal routines, but let's zoom out for a minute and think about the bigger picture. If we could actually slow down or reverse aging, what would that mean for society? Are we really prepared for a world where people could potentially live for 150 years or even longer?
That's a huge question, and it's one that we as a society need to start thinking about seriously. There would be huge implications for everything from healthcare and retirement systems to work family structures and even our sense of identity.
I mean, imagine the possibilities. People could have multiple careers, pursue their passions for decades longer, travel the world, spend more time with loved ones.
Exactly. But there would also be challenges. How would we support an aging population? Would there be enough resources to go around? How would we manage issues like overpopulation and inequality?
Those are all important questions that we need to start grappling with now before these technologies become widely available. Because if we can crack the code of aging, we need to make sure we're doing it in a way that benefits all of humanity, not just a select few.
Absolutely. It's an exciting time, but also a time for careful consideration and ethical reflection. We need to approach these advancements with wisdom and foresight to ensure that we're creating a future where everyone has the opportunity to thrive, regardless of their age.
It's fascinating to think about all the potential benefits and challenges that would come with extended lifespans. But for now, let's bring it back to the individual level. We've talked about all these amazing scientific breakthroughs and the potential for extending lifespan, but it can all feel a bit overwhelming.
You're right. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement and think that we need to do everything perfectly to live longer.
Exactly. But I think it's important to remember that aging is a natural part of life, and there's no one-size-fits-all approach to longevity.
Absolutely. We need to find what works for us as individuals within our own unique circumstances and preferences, and most importantly, we need to enjoy the journey.
So true, because ultimately it's not just about adding years to our lives, it's about adding life to our years. And that's something we can all start doing today, regardless of our age or genetic predispositions.
I love that. It's about finding ways to live more fully, more vibrantly, and more authentically in each moment.
Okay, so before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to circle back to a thought we touched on earlier, the role of the mind in longevity. We've explored all these physical interventions, but what about the impact of our mental and emotional state on the aging process?
Yes. This is a fascinating and often overlooked aspect of longevity. While we've made tremendous strides in understanding the biological mechanisms of aging, we're just beginning to scratch the surface when it comes to the interplay between our minds and our bodies and how that influences our health span.
Right. I mean, we all know that stress can take a toll on our bodies, leading to everything from wrinkles and gray hair to more serious health problems like heart disease and even cancer.
Exactly. And it's not just chronic stress that's a problem. Even those everyday worries and anxieties can have a cumulative effect over time, contributing to cellular damage and accelerated aging.
It's like those little negative thoughts and feelings are chipping away at our telomeres.
That's a great analogy. But here's the flip side. What if positive emotions and a sense of well-being could actually have a protective effect, slowing down the aging process and promoting longevity?
Okay, I like where you're going with this. Tell me more.
Well, imagine if practices like mindfulness, meditation, and gratitude could actually influence our biology at a cellular level, helping to preserve our telomeres, boost our immune function, and enhance our overall resilience.
So it's not just about taking supplements and going to the gym. It's about cultivating a positive mindset, managing stress effectively, and nurturing a sense of inner peace and contentment.
Precisely. And while we're still uncovering all the details, there's growing evidence suggesting that these mental and emotional factors play a much bigger role in our health and longevity than we previously realized.
This is so empowering. It means that we have more control over the aging process than we might think. It's not just about our genes, it's also about our choices, our attitudes, and the way we interact with the world around us.
I couldn't agree more. And that's what makes this such an exciting field to be a part of. We're constantly learning new things, pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible, and discovering new ways to live longer, healthier, and more fulfilling lives.
Absolutely. And it's not just about living longer, it's about living better. It's about maximizing our health span, those years of vibrant, joyful, and meaningful living.
Well said. And it's a journey we can all embark on together with curiosity, compassion, and a deep appreciation for the incredible resilience and adaptability of the human body and mind.
I love that. It's not a competition. It's a collaborative effort. We're all in this together, exploring these fascinating frontiers of science and human potential.
And who knows what incredible breakthroughs await us in the years to come. You know, it's incredible to think about all the potential benefits of slowing down or even reversing aging.
It really is. And it's not just about adding years to our lives, it's about enhancing the quality of those years, maximizing our health span so we can live more vibrantly and meaningfully.
Absolutely. And as we've been discussing, there are so many exciting developments in the field of longevity, from lifestyle interventions to cutting-edge therapies.
It's a truly remarkable time to be alive, especially for those of us who are fascinated by the science of aging.
But let's step back for a moment and consider the philosophical implications. If we could actually extend our lifespan significantly, how would that change our perspectives on life?
That's a fascinating question. It really makes you think about how our values and priorities might shift. If time wasn't such a limiting factor, how would we approach our careers, our relationships, our personal growth?
Would we be more likely to take risks, knowing we have more time to recover if things don't go as planned? Would we prioritize experiences over material possessions, knowing that memories and connections could last for decades or even centuries longer?
Those are great questions. And it also makes you wonder how our sense of urgency might change. Would we be more inclined to procrastinate or delay gratification if we felt like we had centuries to accomplish our goals?
I could see that happening. But on the other hand, maybe we'd be more patient and deliberate, knowing that we have the time to truly master a skill, build a lasting legacy, or make a meaningful contribution to the world.
That's a really interesting point. It could really shift our focus from short-term gains to long-term impact. Instead of rushing to climb the corporate ladder, maybe we'd be more inclined to dedicate ourselves to a cause we deeply care about, knowing that we have the time to make a real difference.
And think about the relationships we could cultivate. Imagine the depth of connection and understanding we could develop with our loved ones if we had decades or even centuries to share our lives with them.
What a beautiful thought. It really paints a picture of a richer, more interconnected human experience.
It does. But as with any major societal shift, there would also be challenges to consider.
Absolutely. One obvious concern is overpopulation. If people are living longer, but still having children at the same rate, it could put a strain on resources and lead to all sorts of social and economic issues.
Right. And what about the impact on our economy and workforce? Would traditional retirement systems become obsolete? Would we need to rethink our entire concept of work and leisure?
These are all complex questions that we need to start addressing now as these longevity technologies continue to advance. We need to have open and honest conversations about the potential implications, both positive and negative, and work together to create a future where everyone benefits from these advancements.
I completely agree. It's not just about the science. It's about creating a society that is prepared for a future where people are living longer and healthier lives.
It's about ensuring that those extra years are filled with purpose, meaning, and opportunity for everyone.
Well said. So on that note of optimism and possibility, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the science of aging. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the fascinating research on epigenetic changes and the role of cellular stress, to the potential of groundbreaking interventions like metformin, NAD boosters, and even the possibility of resetting our biological clocks.
It's been an incredible journey exploring the frontiers of longevity science, and I hope our listeners have gained some valuable insights and inspiration along the way.
Me too. And remember, this is just the beginning. The field of longevity is constantly evolving with new discoveries and advancements emerging all the time.
So stay curious, keep exploring, and embrace the incredible potential that lies ahead for all of us.
For more deep dives into the science of longevity, visit 1337podcast.com. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Strength and honor. I am Spartacus.
Thanks for watching. Tap into 1337podcast.com.